Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Eniwetok preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am so glad that you are here, and I hope sincerely that you are getting ready to have a wonderful Christmas, even if it's not going to be like the best as far as live version. It's going to be quite different. Kwanzaa too. And nothing really is quite the same right now, right? But we are nothing if we are not adaptable. We are a really smart species, and we can do these things, right? I know that not everyone thinks that, but we are. I am personally looking back. We had my youngest grandson's virtual 2-year-old birthday party. And let me just say that if you can be doing that with the 2-year-old that you just love to hug and squeeze, just like his cousins, you can do anything. So I have confidence that we are all going to pull through this. And that being said, because, we have a great show, and I know you're very interested in that, that Constance Victoria Briggs is my guest tonight. I am so impressed with her work. I got her book. I was looking at it, anticipating just, information here and, flourishing writing and everything hunky-dory. When she says encyclopedia, the woman means encyclopedia. When you open her books, the information is laid out in that format, and the information is abundant. And Constance, I have to tell you that when I opened the Encyclopedia of the Moon Mysteries, I could not believe how much fantastic information you had placed in there. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words about my book.
Just fact. I don't get all gooey and stuff. It's a good book.
It was a labor of love. I had a lot of fun sitting in my office, pumping this thing out, and wow, I'm just glad that people are interested in talking about it.
Well, apparently they are, because I just watch. I like to watch other people's shows, and I follow a lot of my peers, and I have seen your name everywhere. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Me too.
Well, you're in California, correct?
Yes, I'm in SoCal. We are locked down.
I'm so sorry. We are close. We do not have the levels that y'all are having there. But they say the vaccines are going out Monday.
They did. But I also heard today that it will be another 7 months before regular people, I get it. People that are not essential workers, people that are not frontline workers get it first, and the elderly, and then everyone else. And I think it starts with the highest age. And somewhere along the line, I heard that they're not even vaccinating people under 14. I don't know if that's true. I've heard one report on that, and I was like, well, wow, that's not good. I didn't think.
Well, actually, they are the least likely to have severe cases and severe complications. It will be nice if they get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But below 14, I believe, is less of a risk factor. But they are carriers.
Right, they're carriers.
So,
and they've been called, at least some of the news reports I've heard super spreaders. Because they're asymptomatic, but I'm just quoting, the news. I don't know.
Well, absolutely. That's all any of us can do, right? Because the literature is so, garbled in a lot of cases that you have trouble following that too.
Yeah, yep. It's a lot. It's a lot, and we everything's closed here. We can do takeout for restaurants, and that's it. Outdoor, indoor are closed. Gyms are closed. Salons are closed, barbers are closed, everything. Just, we can
salons
go for,
are closed?
Salons are closed. Everything.
Oh my.
Movies are closed. There's nowhere to go. The malls are open with 20% capacity for shopping. Yeah. I hit Starbucks sometimes in the morning. There's no one in there. It's so sad.
It's so sad.
Yeah. So we're just waiting, hoping this will end soon.
Well, this isn't anything about your book, but you're the only person that I've talked to in that area, that specific area.
Mm-hmm.
With the military there and such a huge facility,
yes,
is your military installation. And how is it affecting them? Are they quarantined to base, or are they going out and doing things too? Or
I haven't honestly. The Miramar base is about 20 minutes from my house. I haven't heard anything about the military. I'm sorry that I don't have more of an answer. I don't hear anything on the news. I haven't heard anything from the governor when he's on quite frequently. He doesn't separate, the military personnel from the civilians. When he says lockdown, it seems to be everybody. So it is everybody. I'm imagining they are confined to their homes as well, except for essential errands and things, because he hasn't said differently.
You're actually confined to your home.
Yeah, he says stay home.
Wow.
His order is to stay home unless you have to run essential errands and do not see anybody outside of your household. Now, when I say confined, we're not under guard, but obviously,
At this point.
it sounds, when I say confined, it sounds like that, but that's what the order said. See no one outside of your home, and only go out for food and, the drugstore sort of thing. And he's closed offices. They're closed now, too. So, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to step out on a limb here. I think that is so over-restrictive. But by the same token, Great Britain has done that.
Mm-hmm.
And Germany has just begun, or beginning this week.
That's right.
And, it seems to be, I'm torn. I am somebody who, my candidate very rarely makes the ballots after the initial voting. I'm a libertarian, and I just don't think that government has that much right to step in on most things. But this appears to be something that is completely out of hand because Americans are so independent.
Yeah, we're not used to it.
We do not
mind
mind well
what to do. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we don't mind well.
Told. Right.
But I think that if it will get this stopped and get me to where I can get a hug from my mom again sometime in the future, I might even be okay with what y'all are going through. Doubtful, but I might. But, it's just so frustrating.
It's very frustrating, and it's very sad. It's very sad that, of course, people are sick and they're dying, but
yes.
There are people who have lost their livelihood and who are in bad shape and don't know these days where their next meal is coming from. People who have never had to get charity before are, having to get charitable items and food. I have one friend in particular who is worried about eviction, and it's happening. But the governor has said that this is for 3 weeks. The severity of this lockdown is for 3 weeks, and he will revisit it, I guess, at the end of December. We should hear if the numbers are a little better, and he can open up a little. Because we were opened up some, at least as of 2 weeks ago, we could go to a restaurant. It was, I think it was 25% or 20% capacity for the restaurants, with the rest being outdoor dining. Then they cut that to outdoor dining, and now it's none. So in 3 weeks, maybe we'll, open up a little again if the numbers are better. So we'll see.
Well, I hope so. Well, it only has the 2-week gestational period, so that's giving it an extra week just in case somebody is slow in developing symptoms. I think that's the goal. Perhaps he'll follow his own order this time. That will be nice.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I am so sorry that y'all are having to endure that. But I'm very thankful that you're going to have a chance to see if it's going to work. I mean, something has to. This is, it's an astounding thing that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Who would have thought it?
Well,
who would have thought it? I think I was in shock.
I think everyone was.
Yeah, that we were in a pandemic. What? And by the way, I don't know if you have teenagers, but I have a 22-year-old at home and an 18-year-old, and I tell you, my 22-year-old is handling. He's not a teenager, of course, but he's handling it better. But he still gets down now and then. But my 18-year-old, oh my goodness, this is so hard for the young people. This is the age where they're, want to go off to college. She was due to go to LA for her first year, and her school didn't open. And it's just, being locked down, not being able to socialize is really rough for the kids. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about that age group is that they're very adapted to social media. And while I generally think that's a bad thing, because I view that as like the soma of our generation, but, they are adaptable. So they can get on there and, learn, pick fights, love on people. They're better at that than we are at our age.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what they do. They're on all the time. All of her
are.
classes are online. My daughter's classes,
Mm-hmm.
they're all online, and it's a pretty rigorous routine that she has for school. And but they did not open anything. So yeah, she does it all online, and her friends and my son's friends, and we'll see how this all turns out in the end. Hopefully, it'll be over soon.
Well, we are nothing. We may be independent people, but we're also a resilient people. So I have utmost confidence that we are going to find our way through, around, and to the end. And maybe some of us will be a little wiser and then, we'll respond differently as opposed to, put a mask over my cold, dead face or whatever they were saying. I have no problem with masks. I have a problem with being told what to do. You can ask my husband. After all this time, he has figured out that doesn't work. That, I got no problem with a mask. If it gets us through it, I am down with that. And besides, I can go out without makeup and nobody knows as long as I put on mascara.
Now you have to put something right. Put something on the eyes.
Yes. And I don't have any cute masks. I just have plain Jane ones.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Anyway, I appreciate you telling us about that because we don't all have those measures in place. We all fear those measures being put in place. And because some of the things just seem arbitrary because there's really no science to back up the banning outdoor dining. Except for maybe the people in the kitchens. I mean, if you're going to shut things down, then why are there still people in the kitchens? So, they could be sick. They could be doing whatever, and they're being exposed when they go out. So, I guess it's a good thing that they are there. They're making money, hopefully, and they're, I'm sure being tested. But it's just weird. Just weird.
It is. The whole thing is strange and it's hard. And hopefully in just a few months we can get vaccinated for those of us that will. Some people don't want to. And we'll see how it all turns out. I don't know. My life hasn't changed that much in the sense that, I'm usually home anyway. I've got my office here, and I love to be working on a project. And, I'm not 18 and I need to get out. And, I didn't work in an office. And so my life hasn't changed all that much, I feel like. But for most people, it's not like that,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I too work from home. So... Mm-hmm. Oh, and in chat we've got, I still wear lipstick. Why? Don't know. I wear lipstick too because it keeps my lips moist, and I have to spray and wash my masks too. So,
yeah,
because it's like getting them on your white collar or something. Same thing.
Right.
But we have talked ourselves almost to the break, and I hate that this is taking up your time to tell us everything about you and what you're doing. But it's also a good opportunity because I think a lot of people are interested in hearing a Californian's take on what y'all are going through.
Yeah. Well, wish us luck.
We do.
Hope that they open up at the end of December a little bit more. And, just, watch what happens. Be watching the news. Figure it out. Yep, we're having a hard time out here. So,
I feel for you, and it's just really a very strange situation. Like you said, hopefully, in 3 weeks, people will eventually forget that they missed Christmas and birthdays and all this other stuff, or maybe I just don't know. But we are going to go ahead and take this break, and we're going to shift gears, and we are going to get all in to Constance Victoria Briggs' business about her books. So y'all just come back with us. We're so glad you're here. And we will catch you on the flip side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson, your host for this evening on Fate Mag Radio, or as my friend Rick says, the voice of fate. I tried to tell that to my kids and they didn't buy that either. But I am so excited because we have got Constance Victoria Briggs, who is just a fantastic author, and I am having the best time with her book. I'm reading right now the Encyclopedia of the Moon Mysteries, and you cover everything, Constance. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Believe it. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, but believe it or not, I'm still finding mysteries that are finding new mysteries about the moon. There may be another one of these.
Well, I'm down with that. Just saying. Yeah, I actually thought that you were going to have another follow-up on the Encyclopedia of God, because I don't know how you did that.
Oh,
how do you
saw that one.
Yes. How do you, well, with that title, of course I did. I was on your Amazon page, girl.
Oh, thank you.
But, I think that you have done a great job. And, we were talking before the show about how you had used images about the structures on the moon. And I am so impressed with that, because I have seen those And if you use a different filter to view them, you can clearly see the structures.
Yes.
And these are not hidden photographs.
No, they're not. They're not. Yeah, structures, no matter how many times NASA says, that there's really, nothing there. You're just seeing, rocks or not saying anything at all. Sometimes they just, haven't commented on certain pictures. But no matter how many times people say NASA's photographs are grainy, you can't really see much. Yes, you can. If you go in there and look, you can see them. There is no reason that is natural for there to be miles and miles high structures or constructions, if you will, that look like monuments. Okay, there's no explanation for that. That is not a natural formation. And there are quite a few structures up there that cannot be explained. I think there should be an honest, open discussion about it. But for whatever reason, I think some people are fearful to, get into this conversation as to what all of those anomalies or structures, and believe me, it's not just structures that's strange up there. What's going on or what happened? Anyway, so.
Well, I find it fascinating because there are also, besides the monuments, there's also structures that look like a city skyline.
City
like
skyline.
Workplaces, kind of, or housing places. It's just so diverse.
No, but and bizarre. Where did they come from?
Yes.
I mean, there are ruins up there that looks like perhaps there was some sort of war. There's something up there that I find fascinating that has been named the castle with all of these straight lines and geometric shapes. One of my favorite stories is a boxed structure. I don't know if you've ever heard of the boxed structure.
Yes.
That was seen by Apollo 17 astronauts, and there's a story behind that involves Walter Cronkite.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's just
that was they were so busted.
Oh, weren't they? But you hear people today say, no, that couldn't have happened. That didn't happen. But this thing was for your audience that have not heard this story. This was a massive, mysterious, rectangular-shaped structure that was witnessed by the Apollo 17 astronauts and the audience, back on Earth, while the Apollo 17 astronauts were up there with their lunar rover moving around. It was a live broadcast. They came across this huge structure that was the color of the moon's surface. It sort of looked like it had been made from the materials of the moon even. It sort of just blended in, and the camera caught sight of it. And because it was a live feed, that was a problem. So as soon as Walter Cronkite, the story is that Walter Cronkite saw it as he was watching the feed and said, "That looks like a man-made object."
Yes.
And the feed was cut. It was cut. They were off air for 20 minutes. And they came back on, and the story that was told to the American audience, and Cronkite was announcing it, that the lunar rover had inadvertently photographed itself. And he kind of chuckled, and that was the story, and people bought it. Except for, they saw it. They said that the camera took a picture of its own self. So, I don't know. It sounds kind of silly when you think about it, but a lot of people bought that.
Well, people buy just about anything they're selling, though. I mean, It's so bizarre how NASA specifically gets away with really bad spycraft, really. They are out there and they've got all this stuff going on. And, oh no, that was a mere shadow. oh no, those
Right.
ships coming out from Earth, no, those were ice particles.
Right,
Well, ice
right.
particles moving at high rates of speed away from each other, away from Earth, and caught the shuttle's cameras.
Right, right. But,
Yeah.
I recently heard something interesting that I believe it was 1959. The Brookings Institute had, they gave their opinion, and they said, if extraterrestrials are encountered, in space, and if they do, ever go to the moon, then it should be covered. The public should not be told. That was their recommendation. And who knows, maybe, even to this day, that may be what they're following. They're afraid that people won't be able to handle the idea that something is up there and is, living or was living on the moon, be it extraterrestrials, or I've heard all kinds of theories. Extraterrestrials, time travelers, humans that we have advanced technology that is not known to the public, and humans are up there as an experiment. I've heard all kinds of things, but the most prevalent theory are someone else, or ETs, and that's something that we're told people wouldn't be able to handle, even though we have all of this stuff, these movies and things in the media that I feel have helped to prepare people for the idea that we are living in a cosmic community. And I think a lot of people are ready. Some aren't, but a lot of people are. But anyway, I think that is something that needs to be addressed, because sooner or later, something I feel will come out. There are other governments sending astronauts to the moon, and sooner or later they're going to share what they found. I know a while back that China had found a couple of things when they went up, but I think they're going to go and find something substantial, and I would think that the United States would like to be on that the mission to kind of be the first ones to expose that, but not so far.
Well, that's because the Chinese actually went onto the dark side of the moon, where we, who have not been back since, actually on the moon for quite some time, have never landed, ostensibly. Although there was a story that, they had gone back and blown up some artifacts that were left there so that they wouldn't have to answer questions.
Right.
But it's just so absolutely absurd to think that this isn't something that people could handle.
If they find out that there is something up there, then that will, or someone else, that may disrupt people's idea that we really are the most important and the center, of this universe. I don't know if people are ready to handle that, but I think that by now, the majority of people are, and also, we're, the older generation, and I hate to say this, but we're going to die out. The ones that may be the worst at not being able to handle it are, we're going to go. And I think that for the most part, the young people today are really, really open, and I think they're ready.
I think so too. I think that the older people are too, though, because, before everybody got really scary, about this stuff, it was happening. Roswell happened. The Charlotte Mann's family over in, where does she live? Brain fart. But, her father was called to a crash scene, and there was a living ET there. Mm-hmm. So, and he passed, but it was really something to to hear these people's experiences, and they weren't scared by what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were concerned for the beings, the
Right.
pilots.
Right.
And, it was more of a, oh my gosh, because obviously with things that have happened, if they wanted to harm us or, feed off us or whatever it is that we're supposed to be so upset by and afraid of, well, they've had ample opportunity to do that.
They've had ample opportunity, and even on the moon. I mean, if they wanted to do something we put 12 men on the moon. Nothing ever happened to any of them. In fact, I've got a couple of stories in the Moon Mysteries book that where they believe that ETs actually helped a couple of the Apollo missions. Apollo 13 was one of them, and Apollo 8.
Yes.
So, I don't know how familiar your audience are with some of these stories, but for Apollo 8, on their way to the moon, the astronauts witnessed a UFO outside of their craft, and the light was really bright and was really powerful. And the UFOs, made their capsule pitch and yaw, causing the astronauts to nearly lose control of the vehicle. They could have done anything at that point, to the astronauts, but they didn't. But excuse me, I misspoke. That was Apollo 10 that had the problem. So Apollo 10 was the mission that was, of course, before Apollo 11. Apollo 11 was the big one where we landed Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon. Apollo 10 was doing sort of a dress rehearsal for them, and the lunar module left the command module and was, moving, because the next Armstrong and Aldrin would have to do this. They were practicing in space near the moon, and the module became stuck in space, basically. And the astronauts attempted to do a manual override and failed. They contacted ground control for guidance, and they didn't have any success. During the commotion, Eugene Cernan, who was back in the command module, saw something moving outside and saw it pass the lunar module. And once it did, the lunar module's problems were solved. It became unstuck. Everything was improved, and they were able to continue on their mission. So when they returned home, they stated that they felt like whatever that was outside of the craft had helped them. They don't know how, they don't know how they did it, of course, but they felt like these were friendly extraterrestrials. But, they were also told not to talk about that. So, that was one case that if the ETs wanted to do harm, they could have. Apollo 13, as we know, had a huge problem where there was an explosion on board the craft, and it was crippled. And there is a rumor. I don't have any stories about there being a craft outside like on Apollo 10, but there is a rumor that the crew allegedly received a communication from an extraterrestrial spacecraft that instructed them how to safely return to Earth. And it's said that without the assistance of these beings, the astronauts would not have made it home. Some claim that when they returned to Earth, the crew, too, was told not to tell the truth about what really happened in space. So, that is a mystery, that is a rumor, that is something to be looked at. But the Apollo 10 mission, there is documentation that the astronauts said that they saw something outside of the craft.
Yes.
Are you familiar with these stories, Kate?
I am familiar with those. But you had one in there I was not at all familiar with. Mm-hmm. And that was about the dead cosmonaut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that one is a very, that's a very scary one for me. You know, I hate to think that that there are dead cosmonauts or whomever, just up there floating around in space. But I'll just start with saying that the Soviet Union, first of all, in kind of a prelude to that story, the Soviet Union are said to have lost astronauts in the space race, that they failed, and sometimes astronauts died, because there were about 6 that perished. So in their experiments to get to the moon. So there's a strange tale that states that the Apollo 17 astronauts found a dead cosmonaut on the way to the moon. So as Apollo 17 neared the moon, the crew saw flashes of lights that were coming from the vicinity of the moon into their craft. This happened a lot, by the way, with the Apollo missions. They saw a lot of them saw strange lights out there. Besides strange lights and UFOs, it was one or the other for all of the missions. Anyway, bewildered, the astronauts attempted to find where this light was coming from, and so when they looked out, they found a deceased cosmonaut hovering outside of their spacecraft. That's the story. And I wrote in the book, I wrote that the Apollo 17 took photographs of the lights and unusual objects. I don't know if they actually got a picture of the cosmonaut or not, but I certainly am not surprised at that, because I have read some of the stories of them having issues. There's one story in particular where during the space race, these 2 cosmonauts, one was a woman, went up, and they were doing fine. They were running their tests and everything. They were in up there for about 7 days. But at the end, they were having problems, and they were saying, they could be heard saying that they could not maintain equilibrium, and that they were like, hold on to this tight, we're shaking, what's going on, what is that? And the female cosmonaut was yelling to her partner, look out of the peephole, and then you can hear him saying, then he yelled back that if they didn't get out, the world would never hear about it. So they were never heard from again. We don't know where they were. Might they have been one of the cosmonauts that was rumored to have been seen? But they were. We don't know what happened, and maybe the Soviets don't know either.
It sounds like, right? But we have to take a break, and I have some questions for you when we get back. So everyone, we will be right back with you. Thanks so much for being here. Catch you on the flip side.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk. Only on Paranormal Experienced Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We are back. Thank you so much for listening to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. And I am glad you're here because this show is just fantastic information. I have my guest, Constance Victoria Briggs, and we were discussing things seen by astronauts. And during the break, we brought up that there is an agenda currently in play trying to depict all ETs as an existential threat to humans and, a defense threat. I think that if they wanted to harm us, they would be doing so well before now because, if they didn't do it after we did Fukushima, then, maybe we're safe because that was the most boneheaded thing on the face of the planet. But, I'm just curious, what is your take on that?
I believe that some people are going to call me naive, but I believe that it's not all about dark extraterrestrial beings being out to get us. I do personally think that if there was a threat, I think we would have seen it by now, wouldn't we? I think that the darker beings that people talk about, I've heard that they may be on the moon, the Greys, the reptilians, may be up there. But I think my take is that if they wanted to enslave humanity, as I've heard that some believe they want to do, they would have done it by now. What's been stopping them? If they wanted to cause a threat, we're here. We've been here for a long time.
Right.
And we've had people on the moon. I just don't buy it. But that's just my personal opinion. I am not a military commander.
Not even on the side? Jeez.
There was, I believe that Brandenburg had said that, it looked like to him it was a forward base on the moon being created, but I don't see it. Now, with that said, I believe that people have had contact with extraterrestrials. The contactees are out there. Now, of course, you're going to have people that buy into experiencers and contactees, and some people who don't. But there have been contactees that have gone, if you believe this, that have gone into the moon, and they said we're taken there by ETs. Now, most of us know there are UFOs out there. We've all heard of, abductions. And in one case, at least we know of one person who was doing remote viewing there. So the idea that there may be contactees with all that information isn't so far-fetched. But these contactees that have gone, none of them have said that they saw any threat up there. They've talked about seeing humanoids, extraterrestrials, working together, but they've never said that there was any military operation by ETs that were out to get us. And I don't think that it is the best thing to tell people, because that certainly is not going to open us up to wanting to explore the cosmos or wanting to welcome extraterrestrials, that may be out there that would like to. I mean, it's just going to throw fear out there. And that's just my take on it.
Well, fear, as we have found with this virus situation, is a wonderful control medium for masses. If you can point your finger at something and say, that's responsible for everything that's wrong with you and everything that's wrong with this world and this and that and this and that, then, everybody's focus shifts to what you're pointing at, and they forget why they should be upset with you. And, you know, if you can give everyone a common enemy to rally against, you know, like the virus, as an example, then, you know, we just can't, you can't trust the distractions. And I find it interesting that the whole time that the government has been denying that there are UFOs, period, I mean, much less extraterrestrials,
Right.
then, yeah, now all of a sudden they're a threat to us, and you wouldn't even tell us that they existed, and now they're a threat.
Right. Right. So
Yeah, crazy.
I am on the side of sharing information that, you know, I feel is positive and comes from a place of light. That, you know, I don't believe we're alone in the universe. Excuse me. And I believe that eventually this will come out. I think some of this the fear factor may also come from Hollywood. People really buy into what they're seeing in movies. You know, extraterrestrials are most frequently portrayed in the media as something to fear that is coming to get us. But you know, that's entertainment. That's in someone's head. They wrote it. People should keep that in mind. It's not, you know, it's someone's story. So I don't think that they've helped, you know, by any means. From my research, we're getting away from the moon, but from my research on extraterrestrials, there are many different kinds out there that are light beings. There are some that are rumored to be here to try and help humans. In fact, one of the reasons that there are so many UFOs started showing up in the 1950s, I hear, and maybe you've heard this too, is so that we wouldn't use the nuclear bomb to blow ourselves up and to blow up all life on Earth. And they wanted to, you know, to do something about that, and also there would be repercussions throughout, you know, the galaxy if we did that. So they came in to help. I've heard that there have been times where we almost did something crazy and blew ourselves up, and they kind of, however they, you know, did it, were able to intervene silently. And there's, interestingly enough, there was something in the news a few weeks ago about Israeli. I forget his rank or what he did, but he was saying that there were extraterrestrials working with humans about Mars, and they thought people were not ready and they didn't want to tell them. He didn't say anything about them, if that account is true, and I think it is, because, by the way, did you hear the story about the Galactic Confederation? This man said, and he said that the U.S. presidents know about it. This Galactic Confederation is not anything new and unheard of. He did not make this up. But mainstream people, you know, who don't have their hands in this all the time, they don't know that. So I was shocked when he outed the Galactic Confederation, or the Galactic Federation. Yeah, Federation. So,
well, but that is something. I mean, the guy who takes care of that, ostensibly, because I'll tell you, I didn't really buy into it very much, although I am a card-carrying member. But you can purchase a membership into it as an individual. People who are very deep into ufology and the research, who have been involved in it for decades, generally have been gifted membership. But you could have knocked me over with a feather. I thought that it was a freak, kind of. I was very unaware that anything like that existed. But
do you mean the Galactic Federation,
yes.
Or do you mean? Oh,
yes. It was the funkiest thing. So
no,
ask David if he has a card.
Okay, I don't know who these group of beings are really. I mean, there are long lists of names of extraterrestrial groups that have, come out in various sources. And I've been keeping a list because I'd like to write a book about it. But getting, on kind of a different path, Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. I don't know if you heard that he was sitting in on channeling sessions. So he was sitting in on channeling sessions from an extraterrestrial group before he created Star Trek. And I believe that what he heard, because he was saying, that this group was near Earth and that they were here to help and that they were from different worlds. And I swear that he created Star Trek based on that information.
Yes.
So, and I wonder if this is the Galactic Federation. In fact, it could be that he was talking about this group. They're out there, and the information is out there, and I think, people should know about it more so that, maybe we can make some progress and get some answers. One of the reasons that I put this book together is because I met so many people. My family back in Virginia, a lot of them are not aware of this kind of information. They're not listening to your show, Kate, or some of the other shows that are out there that are talking about this. They're not reading the books. This is brand new stuff to them. And I thought this would be a good way for them to get, bite-sized pieces of information about the moon, because I thoroughly believe something's, going on up there, and I want to tell the moon story. I'm not done, but they could get information, and then they could, read bits and pieces, and then do their own research, or at least just hear it, so that we can make some progress in at least some way making a connection to these extraterrestrials that are obviously around us. Where else are the UFOs coming from? What are all of those anomalies that are flying around the moon, on the moon? There's, they say, the moon is a dead rock. Well, I'm here to tell you that there have been reports of strange lights moving across the surface of the moon, seen in craters on the moon, and other kinds of movement on the moon, not just the structures. The structures are what we know most about being anomalous, but there are lots of other things going on. So my point is, I guess, if there are extraterrestrials out there, then having, books like these, just can give people a little bit of information without having to feel overwhelmed with reading everything, in sight. So I'm hoping this will help, and I'd like to be one of those people who can maybe, open people's minds a little bit to the possibilities that we're not alone in the universe, and that maybe one day we can join some cosmic community. I think that would be really cool.
I think so too. Well, we are so close to a break that I'm hesitant to ask another question, but I do want to go on record as saying that your book provides excellent information. It's a great source. If you have questions about anything relevant to the moon whatsoever, you can find it there. And it's referenced, it's good information. It's nothing that is going to get you, fingers pointed and calling you woo-woo, right? I mean, you stop everything, and I think that's terrific. So we are going to go ahead and take our top of the hour break, and I'm so glad that y'all are joining us. If you're just coming in, we will be right back, and the chat room over on Spreaker is wide open. If you go to WBHM-DB.com, scroll down, you'll see the player down there. And if you click on the show, that will get you over. So we are so glad that you're here. Of course, the regular WBHM-DB chat is still open at this time. So come on in. We have all kinds of great stuff happening. Thanks for being here, and we will see y'all After the news, maybe we'll find a little good news. You think? Ever hopeful. Thanks, y'all.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Bank of America. We're all shopping for essentials online these days. With the Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping essentials. Visit bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. Coronavirus vaccines are on the way to locations around the country, and officials say they expect 100 million people in the U.S. will be vaccinated by the end of March. 40 million doses are set to be distributed by the end of this month. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports the first doses will be delivered to all 50 states tomorrow.
Next is the rush to start getting people vaccinated to try to slow and eventually end the pandemic. The federal government is coordinating distribution to predetermined sites around each state. Then it falls to state and local health departments and healthcare providers to actually start administering the shots. It may take a few days of provider training about how to properly give this vaccine for the campaign to really get underway. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
This as the number of confirmed cases in the U.S. continues to grow, now topping 6.1 million cases with nearly 300,000 deaths. That according to data from Johns Hopkins University. Hospitals in many states say they are at capacity with ICU beds filled as they face a shortage of hospital staff. And as the number of coronavirus cases rises around Europe, France is loosening restrictions on nursing homes starting this week so that residents can spend time with their families. As NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports, they'll be able to receive visitors even if they've tested positive for the coronavirus.
The deputy health minister in charge of elderly affairs said that injecting the spirit of Christmas into nursing homes is essential to maintain family ties and fight loneliness. About a third of France's nearly 58,000 coronavirus deaths have occurred in retirement homes where residents have been subjected to strict confinement measures. France has just emerged from a second national lockdown. The tight restrictions helped curb new cases, but the prime minister says the country is still in the midst of a second wave of the virus. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
Protesters tore down Black Lives Matter signs at two historically black churches in D.C. after pro-Trump rallies on Saturday. NPR's Joel Rose reports.
Videos posted on social media appear to show a group of white protesters tearing down a Black Lives Matter sign at one church and setting the sign from a second church on fire in the street. A pastor at the church compared the scene to a cross burning. The incidents came after a rally in support of President Trump's false claims that he won a second term. That attracted a large contingent of Proud Boys, a self-proclaimed Western chauvinist organization which is widely considered a hate group. Anthony Lorenzo Green is a co-organizer with Black Lives Matter D.C.
Our police department allowed white supremacists to tear down and destroy property from a black church, burn it on the ground, stand back and watch it.
D.C. police say they're investigating the incidents as possible hate crimes.
This is NPR. President Trump says he will veto the annual defense bill that covers the military's budget and raises for service members. He's citing unspecified concerns about China, tweeting today that China is the biggest winner in the bill. But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the bill will help deter Chinese aggression. Earlier, Trump said it was because the bill does not repeal legal protections for social media companies. But both the House and the Senate passed that legislation by veto-proof numbers. In southern Utah, some tribal leaders are preparing for a new Biden-Harris administration by calling for Bears Ears National Monument to be restored to its original size after it was dramatically cut by the Trump administration. Ryan Heinschutz of member station KNAU has more.
Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez and others want President-elect Joe Biden to reestablish the monument's nearly 2 million acre original size after he takes office next month. The Navajo, Hopi, and 3 other southwestern tribes say the area is their ancestral home and culturally and spiritually crucial. They worry without federal protection it's in danger of energy development, looting, and vandalism. During the 2020 campaign, Biden signaled he may use the Antiquities Act to reverse the Trump administration administration's 2017 order that slashed bears' ears by 85% and the nearby Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument by half. For NPR News, I'm Ryan Heinsius in Flagstaff.
And I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am so pleased that y'all are here because my guest, Constance Victoria Briggs, is just wonderful. We have been having a great conversation. We've gotten away from her book, which she's been a really great sport about. Her book that we're discussing tonight is Encyclopedia of the Moon Mysteries, and it is really good information. It's everything you ever wanted to know about the moon. We've gotten distracted a little bit with ETs, which she did write about. I mean, they are there, right?
Yes, someone is there.
Someone is there. Someone has been there. The Chinese are there now. So,
right.
Yeah, because we didn't go back. But, I am really enjoying the different thought processes that went into your book. How did you determine that this was the book that you wanted to write?
I've always wanted to write books on us being a part of a cosmic community. I've always wanted to study, theories on such things. In the case of this book, I stumbled across in my travels a book called Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon, written by Don Wilson in the 70s. Oh my God, it's one of my favorite books. And I've just recently acquired his second book too, which is Secrets of Our of Our Spaceship Moon. I just think he really opened my eyes to the fact that there is so much, going on with our moon. It's, he taught me a lot just by reading that book. And so at that point I thought, wow, I'm going to, check on some other stories. And I just started the work on research. And it was so fascinating. I started just putting the stuff together. I just started keeping the stories. I call myself a historian and keeper of the stories now, because I'm constantly putting them aside. I've got several projects here in the works. But yeah, I can't believe that I'm actually getting the opportunity to talk to people about this subject. It's always been close to my heart for some reason. I mean, we joke about people being Trekkies, and we all like Stargate and this and that. But for me, I think the passion, is just so great. So that was, I think, the catalyst for this book. And then, as I said before, meeting people who didn't have any information on this stuff. And I thought they should know. So yeah, that's my reason for getting into the moon. And I'm not done. I believe that there is way more to the moon story. I believe that there is a connection between the Earth and the moon and Mars, and a possible war, and a possible ETs that were visiting all of them. I think that there is a possibility that, but not for sure, but that humans may have some connection to the creation of humans. Maybe, there's a theory out there that maybe there were beings on the moon that helped Earth to progress. Maybe they came from there. There's so many amazing tales. For example, there is a ruin in Bolivia where there are symbols that were carved into an archway, and these symbols tell the story of the moon coming into Earth's atmosphere. It says that the moon actually came into Earth's atmosphere about 12,000 years ago. And when it did so, it caused chaos throughout the Earth, which, of course, it would. And some people associate that with the Great Flood story, that maybe the moon moving in contributed to that. People say, the moon was always there. How, the Earth can't be without the moon. But there are philosophers, men of old, who tell of the moon not being in the sky. Aristotle was one of them, who said there was no moon in the sky at some point. So I wonder if if all of these points are true and if it's all connected. And I'd like to be the person to tell the story of the moon, complete story of the moon. The book deals with the anomalies, but I want the history. I want to put together the galactic history of the moon. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, it is totally fascinating. I don't even know how you get to some of the research points that you do. I know who your publisher is, and I'm going to assume they're friends, so they can probably help if you get stuck on something. But, this truly is already an A to Z encyclopedia with so much information that I can't wait to see what else you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Well, I call them as I see them. I'm always nice, but I'm always truthful. So even if I didn't like it, I would politely say, "Well, did you think that?" Whatever. But I always interview people that I like the work of. So so that's if you're here, I liked what you did. But I think that you are, you're going to have a time topping this. You really are. Because you've got everything to, warned off the moon. I'm back at the back going to the front because there's some that I didn't get to because eventually I had to start just zooming through it, right? But you have, communications. You have NASA to craft communications and tell people where to go to find the rest. I mean, you're very open with your sources. You don't try to hide and be cool. It's just it's nice that you do that because people like to do their own follow-up and you give them that opportunity. So we have, let's see. Well, this is a question that is relevant to the moon, but it's not as far as structures and such, but it is, Sherry says she hears all these different moons, like the blood moon, the blue moon, pink moon, etc., that they can affect how we feel or act. Do you believe that?
Yeah, so there are a lot of there's a lot of moon lore and out there, and it's pretty interesting stuff. I actually started collecting stories on that too. So I have in my book, I wrote about, there's a section called lunatics. Mm-hmm. The fact that the moon can cause people to go crazy. All I can tell you is that the moon affects, it's my understanding that the moon affects our bodies because we're made up of, so much of water that, we can kind of feel a pull in there, just like the tides. Mm-hmm. And that can, that has the possibility of making us feel a little ill. But you're going into a whole other area, sort of a magical area, but yeah, I think that perhaps that the moon can affect us because we are we are made up of water. We may feel a pull from the moon, but that's all I know about it. I do write about the blood moon and these different color moons. Some of them have been hoax, and then some of them have real myths attached to them. But, overall, I don't think that the moon makes us crazy. And I think that is not true. But I think that it can affect our moods because it affects everything on Earth. But I don't think that it turns us into, crazy killing people, as we've heard. So
I would agree with that. But it does affect childbirth.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No.
It actually does. I had a friend who was a medic at a teaching hospital in Georgia, the Atlanta metropolitan area, and they dreaded full moon nights because they would get so many people in labor because the embryonic sac is fluid. And the moon affects the tides. The moon affects every water body that we have. It also affects the fluid in our bodies.
Right.
And she said, people never believe this, but it's true. I said, I'll take your word for it.
That's what I'm saying. It does affect us, and it can even, I guess, make us feel moody and ill sometimes. I could see how that could happen. But if you look in my book, I do have something on it under lunatics, and
yes.
I don't have any explanation, but I just have the theory and a little bit of the history.
Well, it's actually a very good section because, you come back to Moonstruck. Same thing.
Yeah.
So, but, well, that was, I think, her primary thing. I think it's interesting because I read the part where you were talking about the wet moon, and it was, when it's the crescent moon and both ends are pointed in the same direction, both pointed up, so it looks like a smile. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. So every bit of this book is fun. So, well, let's talk about the pareidolia side of things.
Right.
Because I know we were talking about the lights and the movement and everything, and that goes back for centuries that people began to see this. My grandmother always told me that, when it was the full moon, that it was the image of the Madonna and child. So, and it does look like a mother and child, the crater pattern does. And I totally believed that that's what that was, that somehow that had been etched on the moon. I was 10, what did I know? But it was so real to me. And I just found that to be something neat because as far as the motion and the lights and the bizarre happenings, that's all across the moon, and that people could see that with the naked eye even before telescopes were invented, and I can see it just with binoculars. But I have great binoculars. And I have a great camera lens that I catch it with too, but it's just so bizarre.
Well, people see a lot when they look at the moon as far as imaginings and images. Some of the most popular have been rabbits and a frog and a woman, and they see sometimes they see what they want. I think people, especially, early humans, and not even early, I mean, even as late as maybe the 1600s even, people were, still questioning, and before we got the telescope in the 1600s. But yeah, I think people see what they want sometimes when they look at anything. And the moon, because of all of the dark Maria and everything, I think they have always seen many things in it. And a lot of the beliefs and myths, of course, have come from that finding things in the Maria and the looking through the telescopes and seeing what they will. but that doesn't explain black objects moving across the surface, or red lights in craters, or now all of this stuff, guys, I talk about in my book.
Which you can find on Amazon.
Right. or odd cloud formations, or lights. There was something shooting up from the moon towards one of the Apollo missions, and they named them moon pigeons. What were those little white things flying up from the moon? That doesn't. Looking at the moon and finding an image still doesn't explain all of the phenomenon going on up there. So yeah.
Wait, something was shooting at our craft?
Yeah, we're not shooting at the craft. They just saw it flying up from the moon, and they called them moon pigeons, for fun, because they were white, but they didn't have an explanation. They were small white UFOs in the moon's vicinity that were witnessed by NASA astronauts, sort of shooting up. Yeah. So that doesn't explain explain what was going on. There's one story of astronauts being on the moon where they were going about their work, and they swore that something flew past them and streaked past them and kept going. They don't know what that was. Nothing's supposed to be moving up there. Okay, guys.
I know, right? Zero gravity.
Right.
There's, if something floats in, it's going to float back out on the next wind that shows up, but not as a rule.
Right.
The chat wants to know, do you believe the moon landing was a hoax?
I don't. I know there
either.
are so many people who believe that the moon, and they say landing was a hoax. And I have to tell people, there were several Apollo moon missions. We put 12 men on the moon. It wasn't just one. And I asked them, do you think that that all of those missions up there were a hoax? Do you think that the hundreds of transcripts that NASA had, they kept everything on the mission, including the astronauts talking to one another? Do you think they put that all together as a hoax? That is a more extensive hoax than what, when they say that, it's a pretty extensive hoax. It's more than just thinking, there wasn't a flag blowing in the moon. It looks like there was, and then the moon has no atmosphere, or you can't see stars, and these things that NASA came forward and discounted. But there are, the flag theory, for example. The astronauts had a special flag. They put a flag for each mission, and you just had to try to, they had a pole, and then they had a special pole connected to it for the flag to stick out, and they had to, put that contraption together, and, sometimes it's a little squished up, or if they hadn't, the flag would just be laying flat on the moon. So it was a special gadget to make it look that way. Okay, it's not straight, but they wanted to look like it was fanning out. Everyone thought it was a hoax. Now, with that said, and I don't believe this either, but some people have said, okay, well, maybe part of it was they went, but they were covering up. So, they kind of filmed other things to hide the truth about the moon. I'm not really buying that either, but some people believe that. But how do you say that so many missions were a hoax? But, I think that, too, that a lot of people, believe it or not, don't know that it was more than just Apollo 11 that went up.
Yes.
It wasn't just a moon landing. There were many moon landings. And all of these astronauts had stories to tell about things that they witnessed up there. And so that's something just to think about. I've done shows where, one of them said, they got a comment, and they said, I stopped listening when she said there was a moon land, when she mentioned moon landings. But that's the truth. If you go to the website, you can read the transcripts, and you can see all of the pictures that were taken, while they were on the moon.
And, it's interesting because I did not know until I read your book and read your research that you had gone to NASA's site. They have so much information there, and it's just yours for the taking. All you have to do is visit their site and read.
Yes, and in my book, I have put the numbers to some of the Apollo images, so it makes it a little bit easy for you to just kind of, get that number and plug it into NASA imagery, and they pop up. There's one image that shows strange blue lights. We don't know what those were. They were not a problem with the film. They're very interesting because they're well seen in the pictures, and there's several of them. So it's not just one area where you can say, oh, something was wrong with the film, something blah blah blah. Blue lights are, some people call them blue flames. They're a form of transient lunar phenomenon. Transient lunar phenomenon, everyone, is the strange lights, is a title for the strange lights that have been seen on the moon. And the astronauts took several pictures of these blue lights, and you can find them there. There are lighted domes that have been seen. One of the more interesting stories is a mission that went up before they landed. They had a lot of missions that were, pre-Apollo 11 mission where they had to rehearse that big one. And, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my thought. So this mission, they didn't have the technology that we did to cover up pictures. So the astronauts took pictures of this UFO that kind of looked like a cross between, I don't know, an angel and a spacecraft. It was very strangely shaped. It was white, and it kind of looked like it had wings, but it wasn't wings. Anyway, so they took pictures and they tried to cover it up with tape, And
the duct tape. The duct tape.
Somehow, one of those pictures made it through, and you can see that UFO really, really well on there. And I thought that was a pretty fascinating and cool story. I also have, forgive me if I can't remember all of the names of the people. Sometimes I have to just pick up the book and say, oh, what was his name? But there were some people who told of seeing at NASA in the 60s that they were covering up some of the pictures. They were apparently very worried about telling the public some of the things, and some of them were kind of X'd out or covered up. Not just that one that I mentioned with duct tape, but as time progressed, they were able to do a better job. But whistleblowers, if you will, came forward and said, you know what, I worked there and I saw X, Y, and Z, and they were covering up. There were bases, or not bases, but buildings, and they covered it up. So yeah.
Well, it's just so odd because this is stuff that we don't anticipate, and I've seen things in the sky. I've seen things that were very obviously not, they were almost too perfect of an experience, right? I mean, it was just like, oh, upside down pipe light coming out of a green cloud? Really? And that was really nerve-wracking because I was sitting outside in a hammock. And I was inside pretty quick. But, because I don't want lost time experiences and stuff like that. Not my color Kool-Aid.
Yeah, mine either.
Right? I don't mind reading about them and researching them. And I have a lot of friends over the years who are experiencers. But not what I want to experience for myself.
Well,
not the abduction experience. No lost time.
Right. Agreed. It does happen. It's my understanding. I've been meeting people since I've been talking about this book. I've been meeting people who talk of, their experiencers, and we talk about abductions. It's not anything I've encountered, but it's my understanding, that there is a dark and there is a light. Everyone is not out to get us. And so I'd like to stick with that, with that thought. But I think that these things should be, they should be studied, and not, hidden, not run away from. And I think they should be addressed. Crop circles, for example, I think there should be town meetings about crop circles. I cannot understand how the governments don't have some sort of forum or organization to talk about these things. Or maybe they do, maybe a secret. Maybe they know more than they tell us, maybe a lot more, not just your occasional UFO sighting by the military. Maybe there's a lot more. There are rumors that presidents have had meetings with benevolent extraterrestrials that wanted to help, that they had meetings. What was said, we don't know for sure. There's some rumor that deals were made about technology, and there's also other rumors that certain governments didn't want to have anything to do with them. They didn't want their technologies, but the ETs wanted them to give up nuclear weapons. Those rumors are out there, but we don't have any proof. We don't have any documentation to back it up. But people have come forward and talked about these things. So maybe they know that there's something else on the moon, going on the moon, and we don't have to sit around and have these conversations if they would, just talk about it. One of the things maybe your audience have heard, and not, I never know with the audiences, who I'm talking to, if they're very knowledgeable about these things or not. But one of my favorite topics is whether or not the moon is a foreign country. Does the moon belong to someone else, some extraterrestrial group that actually live there and have been there for years and years and aren't just visiting with their UFOs, but actually treat the moon as if it is a planetoid. We all know, or most of us have heard stories of Armstrong and Aldrin encountering extraterrestrials up there. If you don't know, it's a very, very famous story. When they went up, they said they saw extraterrestrial ships on the side of a crater, and that they were watching them. So whether or not that story is true, you can decide for yourself. Look up that story if you've never heard it. It's been around for many years. But if that's true, were the beings that they encountered, visiting, or did they live there? Are the lights that we're seeing and the structures, and there's a structure called a castle that's pretty cool. Yes. There's something that was a bridge, that has been talked about, that was
and
seen,
that just disappeared.
And many other things. Yeah, it disappeared. Many other things. They say that so the bridge was 20 miles long, and it went from mountain peak to mountain peak, and it appeared out of nowhere, and then a few years later it disappeared. It's been theorized that it disappeared because whoever put it there got wind that we were watching, and they didn't want to make themselves known, so they took it away. But so is someone living there? Is someone living there, and have they been all along? Are you familiar, Kate, with the spaceship moon theory?
I am.
Okay.
And I have a hard time with that, because it would be very boring to have the ability to travel and have to stay locked in there.
That's a good point.
So that's why I don't really believe that it's actually a craft. Could it be condos and research facilities and stuff? Sure it could. We don't know. We haven't been in those caverns. And, and the depth, we haven't even been able to fathom the depth of some of the craters.
Okay.
We keep hearing that they are, bottomless, but there has to be a bottom. Everything has an end. So, do they just turn into wormholes and you just zip to somewhere? Wouldn't that be cool?
Doing that, yeah.
I mean, I am dying to get wormholes functional for everybody. But, I do think when you go to the spaceship theory, the possibility is there but simply because it would have to have been in place for 1400 or so years, because that is when the writings were that, was it the Greeks that were like, before the moon was there?
The Arcadians, the Arcadians lived on the Earth before the birth of Job, which was the belief in Jupiter. It goes back, very, very far. But I think that the spaceship moon theory is sort of twofold. You've got two things going on here. One of them is the theory that it was sent into Earth's orbit, to help Earth to stabilize and to flourish and produce more life here. That it was sent by extraterrestrials or driven here and stabilized. There is some, like the Sumerian myth, talking about, of course, you probably know, Kate, about the Anunnaki. Perhaps they had something to do with the moon coming, or not. I mean, but there's an old story from the Zulu people who said that the moon was, sent here. They refer to it as an egg that was hollowed out. So there's a theory that it is a hollowed out planetoid, which has been named a spaceship that has been sent here to stabilize Earth, and that there were possibly beings in there. And if it is a hollowed out planetoid, then those same beings could be living there, inside or outside, just as we live on the Earth. So, and the other theory is that it could be Noah's Ark sort of thing where they, were sent. I mean, it's thousands of years before we get to our next solar system. But, if they have the technology to go out there, maybe their planet was dying, and to fill this thing with people that, to them, that is a home, but it was sent here for whatever reason. But then there's the idea that it is a spaceship, and that there are beings there that are watching Earth and watching man's progress, and they have been since the beginning. Those are all like sort of different levels of that spaceship moon theory.
Right. Well, I could almost buy the Noah's Ark type mindset, because, it's, if they're there and they're there to protect and guide and do whatever, it would be kind of like, you've got ETs there. They probably have craft to go and do things, so they don't have to take the moon when they go, right? So, that could actually cover a lot of ground.
That's what they're saying. And some of the contactees at least have said that they saw, humans or humanoids there. And one of them said that they saw a hangar where craft come in and land, and that they were bartering with the residents of the moon. So, anything could be going on, and a lot of things are possible. And, I just wonder if there's more out there that we haven't come across in the ancient writings that may tell us more. This can't be it. I think there's more to the story. There's more to Earth's story, and now we're going to Mars. It's fascinating. I remember years ago reading a book where this man had done these he put people under hypnosis and looked at their past lives, and some of them came out and said they had lived on Mars. And he was legitimately a past life regressionist. And this is what came out. And I thought to myself then, there was life on Mars. And that was my passing thought. And now we're going to Mars, and there's all of these pictures that have come in from the probe sent up there, and they're better than the moon pictures, and you've seen a lot of things in them.
Yes.
So the fact that they're saying that there may have been life on Mars wasn't surprising to me, because I had already heard it. So I think, Mars has a story, the moon has a story, the Earth has a story, and I think they may all be connected.
Well, I think that they are all connected. Robert earlier had said that everything in space and time all points in space and time are connected. So when you look at it that way, then absolutely. So we are going to have to take a break, and we'll be right back. I'm sorry to cut us off right in mid-thought, but got to do it. So we'll be right back, y'all. Hang with us.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson, your host, with my fabulous guest. I hope y'all are enjoying her, Constance Victoria Briggs. Now, we have had so many questions for you, Constance, that some of them have been completely off subject of the moon. But I will go to their defense and say that, the moon is what leads, I think, to a lot of these things being noticed, because if you're out and it's a magnificent moon, then you're going to be watching the skies. So I think that everyone has an affinity for that. I do actually have to tell you that kind of my favorite thing that we've talked about that I found funny is the moon pigeons. So I had no idea. But I was reading and I found, and I'm having a hard time finding it again, but the moon is very unusual with the layers that it consists of, right?
Yeah. The moon's layers are arranged in a weird way. Typically, the bottom layers, of a body like this are denser than the top, or the surface layers. But on the moon, the top three layers are reversed, the densest layer being on the surface.
Would that be consistent with it being man-made? Do you think that they didn't know when they started out to do it that that's the way things usually are?
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell you, I don't know the science of it. I'm not very good on the layers topic of the moon, but I feel that all evidence points toward it being man-made or ET-made. I know more about the top of it, and I know about it being hollow. So I'm sorry that I can't give a better answer on the layers of the moon, but this is the only thing that I've learned about it is that it is weird.
Yes.
Yeah, the 3 layers on the top should be, on the bottom. So, and
that's just like it's inside out.
It's inside out. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Does that lead any credibility to something going on in the inside? I don't know.
Well, the credibility factor, the government lost the credibility factor when they kept trying to lie to us and they were so blatant about it. All the way from Truman's era when, the treaties were ostensibly agreed to and such, and then to current day. I mean, they're very obvious. They're very obvious in Renaissance paintings. They're very obvious in cave carvings. They're for centuries been seen and documented. And yet, we're supposed to believe that our government doesn't know diddly squat about this. And they, even stuff that we paid for, like our lunar travel. We paid for that program, and we don't get enough information, and we get out and out lied to. Right. So, I think that is where most people, most humans draw the line, because the disinformation projects that our governments employ are very good, but it's gotten a bit too blatant. It's like with some of the things that we're being told about things now. It's just not, it doesn't add up. But something I did not know until I read your book is that the rock samples that astronauts bring back, they're magnetized, but they don't but the moon isn't supposed to have a magnetic field.
Right, and they can't figure out why that is, and I haven't heard much more than that, except for they can't figure it out. They're not they're not talking about it. I'll just tell you. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that's weird.
It is weird. It's one of the mysteries, of course. That's why it's in here, and I wish that they would say more about it. They just can't be explained, and they haven't offered anything else like so many other things. For example, the moon dust on the moon it mostly consists of chromium, titanium, and zirconium. Why is that? I mean, and so the thought is that, they go back to that spaceship moon theory. Researchers feel like, okay, well, that's weird that the surface of the moon is, that the dust is made up of that, and that these are elements that would have been used on an artificial surface that you didn't want to be heated up. It's good for temperature. It's good for staving off radiation and meteor bombardment. They don't explain that either. But that's one reason they think that it's artificial, because of these elements. There's also the fact that the surface of the moon is only 2.5 miles thick. No matter how heavy the meteor is when it crashes into the moon surface, is always 2.5 miles thick. They don't explain that either.
Well,
They don't
that's bizarre.
Well, they also don't explain the possibility, that the moon may be hollow. Why don't they talk about that more? All of these questions that people have, are out there. The
astronauts dropped a piece of equipment, and it rang.
Yeah, it rang.
Nobody talks about that either.
No, for an hour, and they were shocked. And I put it in the book. They were shocked. They were speechless. They didn't know how to explain it, and they still don't know how to explain that. So that's one of the reasons why two scientists in the 70s came forward, two Soviet scientists, and they said, you know what, we think the moon is artificial, and they started naming it Spaceship Moon because it had all of these weird things about it. It was more as if it was a created art object than something that was natural, and they just don't comment. And I think that the fact that they're so quiet, either they think everybody's crazy, we're crazy bringing this up, or they just don't want to deal with it and don't want to give us any information. I mean, I know people that have seen UFOs. I know someone who says that she saw something land and beings coming out of it, and this lady is no flake. And she told her daughter, which is a friend of mine, and I said, ooh, let me interview her. She won't even talk to me because,
gosh.
Yeah, she saw it. She was in shock, and she doesn't want to want me to say it or talk about it. So, yeah, so they know, the government knows, but I don't think that their intent is malicious. I think that they really believe that people are not ready to hear the information from them. I have one friend who worked for CNN for a while, who contacted me and said, I saw this thing over at my girlfriend's house. It was the middle of the night. I was going home. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and there's this bright craft-looking thing over her house. And I ran back inside, and he said, we called him. I don't know who he called, and we reported it. And people were coming outside of the houses to see it. And he said they said it was a weather balloon, but it wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't crazy either.
Nope.
Yeah. So they know. They know. And they're just not saying it yet. Yet. I think they will. Yeah.
Well, I am just so astounded by the information that you provide in this book. And if you are listening and you want to get this book, I really suggest you get it. It is so full of information, and it's laid out. It truly is laid out like an encyclopedia. You will not have trouble with it. And I also want to share a quote from you, Constance, that's in your beginning, which is, there is more to our universe than we've been taught. We need to look deeper and search further if we want to know the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what lies beyond. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. You've done such a great job. Now, you have your Amazon page. Are you in rock and mortar stores as well?
Not that I know of, but I did get some information from a lady about a month ago, and she said, I picked up your book in a bookstore, in Carlsbad, California, and I didn't even know it was in there. So I don't think so, but she said she got it there. So that was news for me. So maybe a rock and mortar store could order it for you if you prefer. But yeah, it's on Amazon. You can just Google it, and I see that it comes up in all kinds of bookstores under.
It has been.
Google it, yeah.
So that's where I got that previous bio blurb.
Yeah,
was in one of those where it's for sale things.
Yeah, that was from my angel book. Yeah, that was a while back.
Yeah, but I have really enjoyed your work. I've enjoyed talking with you. And I greatly admire that you have been able to sit down and put out 4 books of this with this level of information. I know the research that goes into it. I know that, always remembering, the credits and references is not easy. And you were meticulous.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. Can I just say that I have a website, and it's under Constance Victoria Briggs. I'm on Facebook under Constance Victoria Briggs, and I have a page, also a Moon Mysteries page on Facebook that I post cool things about the moon and some mysteries there. So, yeah, I can be reached that way.
Well, I am so glad that we connected and that we had this conversation. And
Me too.
I think that I would like to talk to you about some of your other books maybe in the future, too.
Oh, thank you.
Because
okay.
actually we could do this, too, because, we didn't even get to how it came to be there. As far as the big splash theory or the giant impact.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't talk about the black line phenomenon.
Right. There's a lot there.
There is a whole lot in here. We're going to have to do this again because I enjoyed it. I love the book. I've enjoyed you.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, y'all are the reason we do this. We're thankful for every single one of you. And whether you're listening live or in podcast format, if you couldn't listen live, I'll just let you know that we are on iHeart, iTunes, Google Play, Deezer, Spotify, YouTube. I really don't understand why we're on YouTube because it's a still image, but I'm not going to argue with them. We are everywhere you want to be, and I find us on new sites all the time. I just go out. We are not hard to find, and the network has its own page on iHeart. Fate Mag Radio has its own spot. All of our shows are listed everywhere. So thank you again for being here. You take care, and I hope your loved ones get the vaccine so that they can be touched, because I know that I'm going to hug my mama when I get half a chance. So everybody take care. We will see you next week. Good night. Well, almost good night. I have to tell you that if you don't like the world you're seeing, get out there and you change that. You can do it. You can manifest it. Be the change you want to see in the world. Now, good night. Y'all take care.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.